Welcome to our June work session special meeting. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Here. Oh. Here.
Here.
Scott Latham.
Here.
Brian Tobin.
Here.
In the event of an emergency, visitors are advised that they may exit through the one-side door that leads directly into the parking lot. In the event of an emergency, everyone is asked to move away from the building and do not attempt to leave in your automobile, since this may cause traffic problems and block incoming emergency vehicles.
Thank you. This is so weird. Welcome, everyone that's so far away. Thank you for coming. Our first order of business is some personnel. We are going to appoint our new superintendent to take effective July 1st, 2020. His name is Dr. Anthony Morrow. He's sitting in the front row here with his family, and I need a motion to appoint Dr. Morrow to Southold Schools.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Welcome. Would you like to say anything?
I feel very excited to be part of the Southold family. I look forward to getting to build a meaningful relationship with all of you that allow us to serve the kids in Southold as well as possible. I'm really very excited.
Thank you and welcome. And to your family. We just have two other part-time temporary election workers, Claire Benson and a summer custodian, Jacob Bovine. Is there a motion? So moved. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then we have a claims auditor appointment. Judy's going to speak to this briefly before we take action on it.
We had done an RFP for our internal claims auditor this year, and we had reappointed the same person that we've been using for the past several years. And about 2 weeks ago, I believe it was, he let us know that he's going to be unable to continue in the position. So what we did is Mr. Scheid went back out to the other companies that had responded to the RFP. We had interviewed them, or we had kind of done an email interview of them, if you will. And we just moved to the second one on the list. They all would have been fine. So we just went, quite frankly, with the less costly one. So,
Perfect.
all right, so that's why we were doing this again.
Good thing. Do you want to make that motion?
Yes, so I would like to make a motion that we appoint Serini and Associates as our claims auditors effective July 1st, 2020.
Who's doing the June books, warrants and stuff? Is he Glenn? Is Haran Glenn? Pardon me?
Yes.
Right, because this isn't effective till July 1.
Right, so Mike Carmen's still around.
Oh, he's still
He's
going to be
here
here.
till the end of June.
Oh, okay.
Till the
Okay,
end of
so
June.
he'll be here.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. All right, Judy, who was the second?
Second.
Brian. All in favor?
Aye.
At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Gamberg because he's going to discuss the reopening of schools and the updates.
Thank you, Mrs. O'Frias. Before I get to this very, very brief presentation, and the board members can just simply turn around, there is a very short couple of slides PowerPoint. But first and foremost, I want to congratulate Dr. Morrow and your family as well. Welcome to Southold. This is in the words of Dr. Crean, a very special place. You are extremely fortunate to work with an incredible staff, an incredible Board of Education, incredible students. I remember about 12 years ago when my predecessor was walking me around through the district. The circumstances were decidedly different, to say the least. And he commented on the programs and the students, the student body. And you could immediately see and detect the qualities of the children, the students of all ages, and it's a reflection of the families, the upbringing, the community as a whole. And I have nothing but positive things to say, and I look forward to helping you in the transition, sharing with you whatever you need to help you with a smooth transition. So welcome. With that, you know, we haven't even closed school, and here I am about to talk about reopening of school. And I just want to preface by saying that you'll see, I'm going to provide some information about a structured way that we've begun to at least get the ball rolling down the field. By no means is anything that I'm presenting tonight set in stone. It's a work in progress, but we figured that it would be a help to the new superintendent to get the process started. And with that, I'm going to go to this computer, and the board members can turn around, please. So, thank you, Patty. Appreciate that. I want to pull it away just a little bit. So, we have begun what we're calling a reopening committee, and this will define the structure of it. So I just want to give a few things at the start. The committee is made up of 28 members, which we decided that the best way to get this going was to do an expanded version of what has been an ongoing District Safety Committee. And the District Safety Committee's primary task was to look at everything from every aspect of school safety, the physical plant, evacuation drills, locks, technology, camera equipment, all those types of things that used to be the primary concerns of the schoolhouse. So what we did is we wanted to make sure we had a wide representation, all the school nurses, not all the teachers, but a nice representation of elementary and secondary teachers, all the administrators, clerical support, a board member, a parent, and the chief of police. And certainly, you can imagine, whether in person or virtually, 28 people in a committee is rather large. But we wanted to start with that, and you'll see how we've then morphed a little bit. So we've held 3 virtual meetings since May 15th. They've run about an hour each. I will be preparing a full report with minutes and whatever information we've gathered by the time we transition to Dr. Morrow. We have one more meeting left, and we will issue a set of initial recommendations. I want to remind everybody the process is ongoing through the summer and will likely pick up speed. So the initial work, as I said, it has broken up into some subgroups. Obvious ones are the elementary school and the secondary school, 2 different buildings, 2 different age groups, 2 different sets of needs. So it makes sense that you have these 2 smaller groupings. But beyond that, we've created what we call focus areas. So you'll see quite easily there's a research best practices group, there's a group that's looking at how do we train staff, how do we assess instructional gaps, how do we assess the mental health needs of both students and staff, inventory of necessary supplies and equipment. At the moment, Mr. Scheid, our business official, is his own subgroup, so to speak, looking at financial modeling. All of this can obviously change, but it's safe to say that and I've just read something literally this afternoon on a national scale. Of course, we have a school district of our size, it's not the same as some of the city school districts around the nation, but it could involve millions of dollars of cost for some of the bigger districts. Well, that's thousands or tens of thousands of dollars, and I'm only talking about some of the basic stuff. We'll get into that in a moment, not even including some of the staffing needs that might also follow, and that's where you start to get into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. So financial modeling, Mr. Scheid and I attended a webinar where some of the most veteran superintendents and business officials on Long Island presented a look back at some of the difficult times in the 90s and some of the other periods of time where we had to really look in a whole nother direction as school districts, and none of that compares in any way, shape, or form to what we're in for now. The last piece here, by the way, I just want to make a special mention here, communications. One of the reasons why I wanted to do this very, very preliminary presentation is I wanted to stress the fact that it is incumbent upon everybody in the school district, every employee, every person, to communicate effectively, to get a team together, to ensure that our students, our staff, our families trust what we're doing, that it is very transparent, that we have taken every possible precaution, that we are investing heavily in making sure that it is safe to reopen schools. So communications is a very important piece of all of this. So here's a focus that we spent the last meeting just the other day, and this is just some suggestions on some of the things that we're looking at. You know, It's interesting, and I'm holding, of course, a mask here, and you can all imagine, for those of us that have, in our careers, taught for multiple hours throughout a day, where you're talking quite a bit, the idea that breathing through this for an entire day is going to work, it just doesn't. So we started to examine the concept of face shields in lieu of face masks. Some people suggested that maybe some of the students, particularly high school level, might prefer a bandana. I mean, these are just things that we're thinking about. Obvious ones, hand sanitizer. We may not need to get wipes and sprays. We have our custodial and maintenance staff under the supervision of Mr. Dragone. He has been very proactive, even as far back as March. I know Mr. Tobin submitted some information that I believe it's this right here, right, Brian? So we already have one, and that was at the suggestion of Mr. Tobin, but we would be looking to supplement some of this equipment and possibly other equipment. Some of this stuff we have enough on hand, but it was suggested. So this is an ongoing list. This is not a complete list, but the idea is we don't want to wait until the last minute. We have some funds available now before the close of the year. It makes sense to order a couple hundred of certain of these things, and equipment-wise, it may be $10,000 or $15,000. Some of these, forgive me, Mr. Dragone, is it infrared light? What is it?
UVC.
Thank you. UVC light has the capacity to kill the virus, and in certain areas, you can have an apparatus that will do that. You can't go through the entire district in a given evening, but certainly the nurse's office can get special attention. There are handheld devices that you can scan over keyboards, particularly the Mac Lab, where there's a lot of touching of the devices. So these are all things that we're considering, possible hand washing stations. So there's a lot of work yet to be done, but this was just some initial thoughts. And finally, when we look at next steps, we obviously have to wait for guidelines. It was my understanding that the month of June we would be issued the guidelines for the plan that would then be due in July. Well, it's June 10th and we don't have the guidelines yet. There's obviously time left. We'll wait till June 29th maybe and get the guidelines. But
Which will then change on the 30th.
well, that's what's been the case since this all began. But nonetheless, we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves to start taking action on certain things without knowing what's going to be expected, which is subject to change. I should point out that there'll be some policies that are going to have to be developed, and we have board members and Ms. DiGregorio who are always on the lookout from the state level to see what policies we need just in general. This will not be any exception. There'll be some policy development. And as I said, prepare for major communications initiative. That will be ongoing. And that pretty much covers it. I certainly welcome any questions. Board members?
Have we had a spike or in possible increased enrollment because of the people that have moved out to the area?
I don't have
Is it
anything
too
concrete. It might be too soon for that. We have anecdotal information that I hear informally out and about, people seeing people, more people around, people they didn't
Oh, yeah.
otherwise see. I'm sure local
Well, I
businesses.
heard from a district that does take tuition students that they've already capped for next year.
Okay, we're not
No,
in
I
that
know we don't do
situation.
that.
Right.
This is another school district, but because of already an interest.
I think we anticipate.
Well, like after the 9/11 where people moved out here
Right.
and stayed.
It would seem that, I think that generally speaking, there was a exodus from the city, whether it's the South Fork, the North Fork, out of state, you're seeing that already, but we don't have any numbers to
We
my
don't
way of
have-
knowing.
Would it be prudent
Back.
to,
Well,
A few inquiries,
Okay.
right, so it's preliminary.
they have taken packets already. Right? Yeah,
Right.
okay, thank you.
I was going to say, would it be prudent to try and put something out to see if we can, I don't want to encourage, but on the other hand, to put something out publicly that if, you're considering being a new student, we would kind of need to, or, it would
I
be
mean, I don't
helpful
know.
to the district to get that information by July 1st or July 15th, something, I don't know.
Yeah.
Make people, if they're going to do it, kind of force the hand, I guess, if you will.
But we really can't anyway.
No, I know we
They can
can't,
come
but
September
if they
1st,
start
then
to
we
see,
can.
but if they start
Yeah.
to see, okay, well, they, I don't know. I don't know if there's a way.
Yeah, I think we have to be mindful and
I
keep
know.
our eyes on it, on the ball, so to speak,
Yeah.
with maybe real estate agents, I don't know.
It's just
worth
concerning that it
exploring.
could be, on the
Last minute.
25th, and all of a sudden
And
we've got,
that
so I don't know if there's a way to, I don't know, encourage if that's going to happen.
It depends because there's so many
I know.
unknowns. And
I know.
the
I
city
like
school
just
seems to be doing what
brainstorming.
they want to do, and that's different than what
Right.
the rest of the
Consistent.
state says. And
No, I hear. I'm just brainstorming, I'm just trying to.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll
No
keep the
easy
board
answers.
updated, for sure.
We appreciate all the efforts of the
Yeah.
committee, and we know what hard work it's going to
I
be.
think I mean, I guess for me as a board member, my most concerning thing is going to be gaps, educational gaps.
Right.
And I think that's what I'm most interested in making sure that we understand how those are going to be addressed, especially at those younger levels. Because I think they're going to be greater at the younger levels, and not anybody's fault or anything, but just
Right.
younger children are very, very attached to teaching with teachers
Yeah.
in a classroom and getting immediate feedback and all of those things, so.
It's
I look forward to making sure that we have a great deal of information about how that's going to be assessed and how that's going to be addressed as we move forward.
It's why we broke up into those categories,
Sure.
because we wanted to focus in. You can't have all 28 people looking at everything. And the degree to which a number of people are quote-unquote researching other schools to see what they're doing. I mean, some of this is very local, and our situation is unique, but some of this, there might be some practices, whether it's closing potential gaps, addressing mental health needs,
Right.
equipment, anything like that. I think at this point in time, we have to just keep grabbing onto it and seeing, what makes sense for Southold. But yeah, that is a big concern.
It's-
Mental health is as well.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's hard all the way around.
For
There's no
students
question.
and staff.
For students and staff, absolutely. Yeah.
Is the English language learners being particularly addressed? Because, they're going home, they've made progress, and then they go home to a house that doesn't speak English, and then we have all of next year's kids coming in. I think that might be an area where we're going to have to
Absolutely.
It is a harder challenge, no question about that, Scott.
somebody on deck to
Right.
hire.
The degree to which we're very fortunate, we have a very dedicated group of ENL teachers that take it very personally. It's just part of the DNA. When a person goes into that particular discipline of teaching, my experience has been they have an overabundance of care, concern, a degree of which they will reach out personally, make the phone calls, get in the car, do what's necessary. And by the way, to the degree that Mattituck and Greenport are experiencing similar concerns with those populations, special needs students, special education, there is definitely an interest in trying to get ahead of that as much as possible. It's not easy for a lot of reasons. The economic toll that families are taking is a major concern with that population and everybody.
Do we have funds perhaps to have like I don't want to sound trite or whatever, but like an English language camp for the little ones?
Yeah, well, the one thing actually was just this evening that Mrs. O'Neill is about to place an order, it's in the works, for a grab-and-go set of books to be distributed to all the elementary school students to just give them some strategies over the summer, because even in a normal summer, there are concerns. And now we have 3 months or 4 months plus summer before you get back into the routine. In terms of a camp, obviously we've been waiting for the guidelines on what's permissible. We did just receive information about in-person summer school for special needs students. The high school level summer school that had been out in Greenport for credit recovery and Regents exams, which have been canceled, is going to be a virtual summer school out there.
Do they define special needs? Because not knowing the language, I imagine could be considered a special need.
Well, they're two very similar populations. They are distinct, but sometimes they're both. But it is a special need. I'm speaking of it in the IEP, special
I'm just concerned
education.
that these kids are going to fall, they've lost half of
Farther back
this
in
semester.
there, yeah.
So
And
is
then
there
the
a
kids
way to
coming
get
in
them
next year,
Yeah,
I just don't, I want them to be as successful as they can.
right. No, you're absolutely right. And the degree to which we can't wait till the last minute to get started. To your question about funds, and Dr. Morrow, if you're not already aware of this, we are in a very strong financial position, relatively speaking. And as such, we are going to take all the steps that we can before you get into next year to try to pre-deploy, programs, services, materials, supplies, those kinds of things. So we're definitely mindful of that. I don't have anything concrete, but your point is well taken, and I appreciate the fact that as a board member, you're bringing it up, because it indicates that you have a real focus on where it should be.
I think we all agree with Scott that it is something
Yeah.
that should take precedence.
Yeah, we can do something this
We can
summer.
get ahead of it.
That would be phenomenal.
Yeah, and we might work in concert with our neighbors.
Absolutely.
Because I know that CAST is very concerned about those children in both districts.
Sure.
All three districts, I should
So if
say.
we can do
would
something
make good
this
sense
summer,
to
that
work
would be
together.
phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, we've always tried to maintain that,
Right.
work
That would be
together.
huge.
To Scott's idea about a camp, I thought, didn't the governor say we could have day camps?
Yes.
There's no overnights?
I believe so.
Yes,
Yeah,
so there may
Some
be a
sort
way
of
to do
an
that.
idea
there may
like
be a
that
way to
could-
do that, yeah.
I think
put
that's why
something
he,
together
I
for
think
that.
that's why he used the word camp, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well done. Well played.
Boot camp.
Correct?
Camp.
Barely see
So
it.
that would be that's a really good idea. Scott, you're just coming up with a lot of good ideas
He
lately.
doesn't even know he did.
I hit one once in a while.
Every now and then. So,
Okay.
But I also like to what you said on the slide, it's got to be effective communication, not just communication, because we all know there's plenty of communicating going on Facebook, and it's not necessarily effective in the proper direction, but.
Agreed.
right,
Okay.
okay.
Good. Thank you.
And there's been no direction from SE, the state.
As far as a reopening plan?
Right.
Not that I'm aware of. Again, we were both shaking our head, it was supposed to come out in June.
Told us when we have to tell them what we're going to do. They haven't given us the parameter of what we have to do.
Do you think that their intention is then to take all of those plans
And then-
that the schools are going to submit and then come back to
make
the
the
schools and
rules?
say, here's what
Uh,
here's what we like.
Cheat
here's-
sheet.
The indication seems to be that they're going to ask us to put in, they're not really going to comment to waive or some sort of ban. I don't think they have the ability to do that, no different than when they made us.
Yeah.
Congress was current plans, and then 2 months later said, we're going to send these all back to you, we can make sure that it has these details, which they should have said.
Right.
This, we're in the middle of a situation where you're opening,
Right.
like as much as I love the state, this is a scenario that nobody knows. Nobody knew was going to happen. Nobody knew as it rolled so quickly that things changed so much.
Mhm.
So it's hard to say. In fact, they put nothing. We have to say
Yeah.
this month. And like you said, it's probably come the last 2 days.
So last week they shared, they went to the ESO's superintendent chair that the state ed was initially, they said to June. They've now told us, or told him, they're starting 4 regional groups by invitation only. Right, so they're going to have those groups. They're going to share guidance in June, early July to the board of regents, who will, she goes to Charles, Mary Beth Casey, assistant commissioner, either the 8th of July or the 14th, the board of regents will vote on the guidance and then share it with the district. So then one of the assistant superintendents said, well, initially we had to have our plans done by the end of July. Do we know we're going to have more than 2 weeks to put together the reopening plan? And she didn't know. She's not part of the governor's text. So that was 2 weeks ago or a week.
Okay, so they're not going to get anything to you guys until July,
Well-
and maybe it'll be due in July too. Okay.
All the more reason why we wanted to get started on our own
Absolutely. Have to have
anyway, to
ideas.
begin the
Have
conversation
the brainstorming
and
done.
brainstorm and suss out, because waiting till
Maybe by
guidance might
August
be.
1st, it'll be gone.
Well, and I think what you're doing is smart too, and as you mentioned, we're in a good financial position, so whatever we can purchase with no excess funds this year,
We're going to do
we know
that.
how painful next year could be.
Right.
In the way of state funding, we should get what we can.
And I will loop in Dr. Morrow immediately in terms of providing all the work thus far and recommendations, and we'll take it from there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you to the 27 other
People.
people. I guess that's it, right?
Yeah, there's nothing on there.
There's nothing on the other side, there's no page 2. I guess, welcome again, Dr. Morrow. We look forward to continuing what Mr. Gamberg has brought to our district, and we will celebrate Mr. Gamberg at our regular June meeting at the end of the month.
And then at some other time thereafter.
Yes, but officially at our.
When we can have more than 10
We
people.
hope you'll come to that meeting as well, so
Yes.
that we can celebrate all that Mr. Gamberg has done for our district in the past several years. That being said, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.